Welcome to the Galvanised Hockey preview shows as we look forward to the World Cup in Bhubaneswar in a few days' time. It's fantastic to be joined by Nikki Alexander-Lloyd, 120 caps for Scotland. Not fresh back from the Commonwealth Games, but that was the last major. Welcome. And Ross Bone, Ross, assistant producer for BBC Sport, ex-England Hockey Communications Officer. Just out of interest, what was your last major tournament, mate?
I played for Brooklyn's 5th 11 against Timperley a couple of weeks ago and won 2-1 and got sworn at by a 60-year-old man.
Brilliant. Well, what we're aiming to look forward to previewing is obviously the World Cup. Different format of tournament following on from the Women's World Cup that we saw in London. 16 teams, 4 pools of 4. So with that in mind, reflections on what that tournament might look like as we move forward to seeing the men's teams take part in that format.
I think for me, I think it's a good development for the tournament. I think FIH tournaments in the past have had a lot of criticism for their formats because the pool stages were effectively a seeding for the next round, so they were meaningless. So 2014 Champions Trophy, for example, Pakistan and Germany both finished bottom of their pools and they were in the final. So I think this kind of new format where it kind of puts a little bit of jeopardy on each game and means that teams have something to play for because they could go out of the tournament completely, or they could end up having to play an extra game, or you know, have a slightly tougher route to the final. And we saw in the Women's World Cup, Ireland got perhaps a slightly more comfortable route to the final than they might have done had they not finished top of their group. So their efforts in the group stage were kind of rewarded and gave them that chance to sort of progress all the way to the final. So I think for me it's a better tournament format than the ones we've seen in the past.
Do you think that change in format, so that extra game and that playoff crossover, or not getting that extra game if you win the pool, does give an added incentive in a player's mind?
I think so. I think it shows which teams are consistent. And you've got some who can win a game and then they'll lose the next, and you can't do that in this style of tournament. So I think it'll help focus all the players. They'll definitely be like, right, we've got to win every single game, and I think it'll make for a lot more exciting hockey.
But if you were to look at that as an athlete across the entire tournament, so you get that extra crossover game, it reduces your rest period, it increases that fatigue, you then go into the other pools, does that have a potential impact later on down the road?
Massively. I think if you're having to play extra games on little rest, there's a chance that the skill may decrease. But then you put that as added incentive. You've got to do well. You've got to win these games when they matter. I think at the end of the day it does make for more exciting hockey.
That more exciting hockey, we looked back on the Women's World Cup and there was the unexpected results. Do you think that was because of the format of the competition or the performance of the team?
That's difficult to say, really. I think what the Women's World Cup showed us that perhaps the men's will be slightly different is that you've basically got the Netherlands and then everyone else, and there's a massive gulf to where the Netherlands are, but I think perhaps the teams sort of below them are a bit better matched than they have been previously, and I think it was just a case of some of the so-called smaller teams were just better equipped than maybe people thought to get those results, and subsequently did. And you know, you see with a team like Ireland, you know, momentum in tournament hockey is so important. So they got to win in their first game. The tails were up, the energy was up, you know, the enjoyment is up straight away, and then they're able to bring that into the next game and the next game and got on a bit of a roll. So I think it's partly because of the way the tournament was structured, but also because of the kind of how close all the teams are at the moment in women's hockey, apart from the Netherlands, who are miles ahead.
My feeling in the men's is that there isn't that gap between a number one and the rest. Yeah. There is probably out the 16, there's probably 12 teams that could realistically perceive themselves progressing to the medal rounds. Is that what you think about the competition?
Yeah, I think being open to the 16, you're not going to have 16 teams all of the same level or even to be able to compete with each other. But no, I think there'll definitely be, for Belgium going in, they'll see themselves medaling, but then Argentina will, Australia will. But then at the other end, I think you're probably going to have like France, South Africa, Canada, teams like that who might believe on their day they're going to do better in their ranking, but I don't think they'll be medaling.
Well, those teams that are meddling, and one of them has been the Malaysians. Altmans has come out and said he's taking his team to the World Cup to finish on the podium. Thoughts on that statement?
It's bold.
That's one way of putting it.
I mean, he's not been in charge long, and he did a really good job with India, and I think what he did well with India was he managed to kind of marry their natural flair with sort of discipline and pragmatism, and you'd love to think that he could do that with Malaysia, but probably not in the time that he's had with them. I mean, they've got some really nice players. Razi Rahim's a nice player. Faisal Sari's a good drag flicker. I'm hoping that Kumar plays in goal because I absolutely love him. 39 years old and tiny, but this just an absolutely fantastic goalkeeper.
It's not the most conventional goalkeeper, is it? On the international stage.
So, but I mean, they've got some really nice players, but I think he's possibly talking them up a bit too much there. I can't see them winning a medal, no.
You can't see them winning a medal. Who at this moment is going to be your favourites?
I'm going to be so obvious, but Holland for me. I think I agree in the men's game there's a lot less difference between them and the others, whereas obviously in the women they are a class above the rest. But when they play and they are all on the same wavelength, there's no one who can touch them, and they are a pleasure to watch. So I'm hoping that they are going to bring it to this tournament and take the gold.
Same thought?
Yeah, I'd go along with that. I mean, they've got Mink van der Weerden on corners, who's obviously dangerous, but then Billy Bakker, Jorik Kroon, Joran Hertzberger's back in, scored over 100 international goals. Robert Kemperman, Mr. Backhand. And then Mirko Prelza, who's a player that doesn't get mentioned alongside those players, for my money, enough. He's absolutely ruthless in the circle, always scores goals, knows exactly what he's doing in that circle, and their firepower is absolutely frightening. So yeah, I mean they've got to fancy themselves and got to have a chance, you'd say.
Well, Mirko obviously was top goal scorer at the Europeans last summer, so he'll look to carry that form forward. But do you think in a World Cup there is a place, or we will see a field goal specialist outscore somebody like a drag flicker like Payet?
I guess that all depends on how well Argentina do. Ultimately, if Argentina get to the back end of the tournament, then Payet's going to be one of the top scorers. There's no question about that. If they win 4 corners a game, he'll probably score 2 or 3 of them. So that'll immediately give him great numbers. But being sort of a bit of a purist myself, I'd love to see someone like Preuser score more goals than him. But if Argentina do well, it's hard to see that happening.
We'll obviously purists want to see more of the field goals out there. And we were talking before we started the programme about Argentina and maybe a little bit one-dimensional, looking to force those corners, looking to get Payet up on the top of the circle. And there is a predictability about that. But if we were looking at the unpredictables in the tournament, what shocks do you think we might see?
So I don't want to say this is a shock, but I'm expecting Ireland to do well, because they've been on the up for the last number of years. They've got quality players throughout, and I don't think they're necessarily given the respect they deserve. So I may say shock results, but no, it's not going to be. For me, I can see them doing really well.
Do you think that change of coaching structure with the Irish, change to Alex Cox, camp on coach, that Dutch experience will make a difference to what they've had so far?
I think slightly it will. They've always been hungry for the ball, always been wanting to kind of prove who they are. But bringing in that Dutch influence, bringing in like difference in tactics and also mindset as well, I think that's going to be a massive thing for them.
Okay, well, we'll see if there's a shock from there. Yourself, Ross, anybody that you think on the outside?
Well, I came here thinking I quite like the look of France, but then having spoken to both of you beforehand, I'm starting to think maybe I'm crazy.
28 years since they've...
It's 28 years since they've been in the competition.
Yeah.
I mean, they're the lowest.
20.
They're the lowest ranked side in the tournament. They beat England in a warm-up game recently and lost 4-3 to England. They've got a decent goalkeeper. They've got a decent drag flicker. They are in a really difficult group, which I'd probably say is the tightest group, the group of death, with Spain, France, New Zealand and Argentina. But I don't know, like world ranking, they're quite low. If they catch New Zealand cold in the first game, anything can happen. Who knows? So yeah, as much as you guys have made me doubt it, I'm not bailing on the French just yet.
See what
Ask me
happens.
again after one game,
Yeah.
but we'll see
Okay.
how it goes.